The Iron Cage Sports Bar and Grill sat on East 6th Street in Austin, Texas, walls covered with signed fight posters and championship belts. On this Friday night at 10:47 p.m., the place was packed with fighters, trainers, and fans watching knockout highlights on mounted screens. Captain Zuri Anderson sat alone at the bar, nursing a club soda. She wore civilian clothes, jeans, gray hoodie, hair in a ponytail. Nothing suggested 12 years of Delta Force experience or 4 combat deployments. She'd come to decompress after a long day at Fort Hood, seeking quiet anonymity. The trouble arrived at 11:04 p.m. Derek Thornton and his crew. Derek was local MMA royalty, 18 wins, 3 losses, a knockout artist with an oversized ego. His entourage included Brandon Chaos Mitchell, Kyle Cooper with his ever-present phone, and gym owner Travis Ward. They were drunk, loud. Derek's voice carried across the bar. "This place is dead. Where's the talent? If you believe in standing up against bullies, hit that subscribe button. This story will show you that assumptions about strength can be deadly." Zuri ignored them, checking her phone. Then she felt predatory eyes. "Yo, check it out," Kyle said, filming. "Female sitting alone in a fighter's bar." Bold Derek approached, beer in hand, invading her space. "Hey, sweetheart, you lost? Yoga studio is 3 blocks down. This place is for fighters." Zuri didn't look up. "I'm fine. Thanks." "Oh, she speaks." "Got attitude too." He touched her shoulder, uninvited. "What's your name, girl?" Zuri set her phone down carefully. "I'm asking you politely to leave me alone." Derek's smile vanished. Public rejection from a black woman in front of his crew was unacceptable. "You're asking me politely? Do you know who I am? Derek fucking Thornton, 18 and 3. And you," he grabbed her arm hard, "you think you can disrespect me in my bar?" Jennifer, the bartender, stepped forward nervously. "Derek, maybe stay out of this." He tightened his grip. "This bitch needs to learn some manners about how things work here." Brandon and Kyle moved closer, forming a semicircle. Travis watched with a smirk. Marcus Williams, a black engineer 2 stools away, quietly started recording. Zuri made eye contact. Her brown eyes were calm, assessing. "Let go. Last warning." Derek laughed. "Or what? You gonna call your boyfriend?" He yanked her arm, trying to pull her off the stool. "You need to apologize, then leave before things get worse." "Worse for her?" Brandon joined in. "She should be grateful Derek's talking to her, but she acts stuck up like she's too good for us. That's the problem with you people, always acting like you deserve special treatment when what?" Zuri cut through. "Say what you're thinking." Brandon flushed. "I'm saying, people like you come into our spaces expecting red carpets. This is a fighter's bar. You're not a fighter. You don't belong." Zuri stood smoothly. Derek towered 8 inches over her, outweighed her by 70 pounds. To the watching crowd with their phones out, this was a mismatch. Derek released her arm and shoved her backward hard. She stumbled 2 steps. The crowd gasped. "Show us what you got. Show us what a strong, independent woman can do against real fighters." Brandon moved left, Kyle right. Travis stood. 4 men boxed her in. A white woman nearby whispered, "Someone call security. She's going to get hurt." Zuri centered herself, relaxed. "I don't want to hurt you. Walk away." The bar erupted in laughter. This black woman in a hoodie hurting Derek Thornton? Comedy gold. "She don't want to hurt us," Brandon howled. "Kyle, you getting this?" Streaming live. 20,000 viewers. Derek's face twisted with rage. "You think you can hurt me? Let me teach you about respect, about knowing your place, about what happens when you people come into our spaces." He threw a right hook. Zuri's left hand intercepted at the wrist, redirecting with circular motion. Her right hand struck his elbow joint, hyperextending it. The combination spun Derek off balance. Her leg swept his feet while controlling his useless arm. She rode him down into an armbar. 2.3 seconds. Derek hit the floor screaming. Brandon rushed forward. Zuri released the arm, rolled backward to her feet. As Brandon scrambled up, her front kick struck his solar plexus, expelling all air. He sprawled into a table, gasping. Kyle tried grabbing from behind. Zuri ducked under his arms, pivoted, applied a rear naked choke. 4 seconds, cutting blood flow. His legs weakened. Phone clattered. Travis moved in. "Lady, you need to—" Her palm strike caught his sternum, shocking cardiac muscle. He dropped to his knees. Her knee struck his temple, controlled force. 10 seconds total. 4 men groaning. Zuri stood breathing normally, hoodie barely wrinkled. "Call the police," she said calmly. "These men assaulted me. I defended myself. Multiple witnesses and video. Jennifer was already on the phone with 911. Derek struggled up, arm hanging useless, face purple. "You bitch! You broke my arm. I'm pressing charges, suing. You attacked 4 professional fighters. Where did you learn that? Some street corner, prison yard, whatever hood you crawled from? You're done. You assaulted me first. Multiple videos. I used appropriate defensive force." "Appropriate? Who the fuck are you? Took some women's class and think you're special? My lawyers will destroy you. People like you don't attack white men and—" He stopped. The words hung. Kyle's phone had captured everything. Livestream comments exploded. Did he just say that? Full racist. Career over. Zuri pulled out military ID. Captain Zuri Anderson, United States Army, Delta Force, 12 years Special Operations, hand-to-hand combat instructor for Tier 1 operators. Absolute silence. A glass shattered. "I've trained Navy SEALs, Army Rangers, Marine Force Recon, Air Force Pararescue, 4 combat deployments. What you experienced was 15% capacity with explicit restraint to avoid permanent injury." She showed her phone, dress uniform photo, chest covered with commendations including Medal of Valor. If this justice moved you, hit that like and subscribe. What happens next shows actions have devastating consequences. Derek's face went gray. Brandon groaned. "We assaulted a Delta Force operator. On camera. We're fucked." Kyle stared at his phone. 40,000 viewers now. Comments. "She destroyed them. Actual soldier wrecked MMA bros." He said, "People like you. Done." Sirens approached. Multiple Austin PD units. 3 years earlier, Zuri had stood in the Oval Office receiving her Medal of Valor. Classified mission in Syria. Neutralizing a terrorist planning embassy attacks. Alone after team compromise. Her father, retired Army colonel, had cried. Her mother, 30-year Walter Reed nurse, whispered, "So proud, baby." But Zuri knew the hardest battles weren't overseas. They were here. American bars where her uniform meant nothing, where skin color made her a target. She'd grown up in Charleston, daughter of professionals who worked twice as hard for half recognition. West Point application, white guidance counselor suggested be realistic, maybe community college. Zuri graduated top 5%. Officers burst in, weapons ready. 4 injured men on floor, 1 calm woman at bar, dozens filming. EMTs arrived. Lieutenant Patricia Morrison reviewed security footage, Marcus's recording, Kyle's live stream, now 50,000 viewers. She watched Derek grab Zuri, the shove, racial comments, everything. "Captain Anderson, I need to verify credentials." Zuri provided military ID, commanding officer contact, Fort Hood base security. Morrison made calls. Derek's attorney, Kenneth Walsh, arrived. "My client is the victim. Excessive force." "Your client initiated unwanted contact on live stream," Morrison interrupted. "Surrounded her with 3 men. Threw first punch. Let me finish investigating." Morrison's phone rang. 90-second call. She hung up, looking at Derek with pity. Colonel James Harrison confirms Captain Anderson's identity. Quote, "If 4 drunk idiots attacked her, they're lucky to be alive. She's trained to neutralize armed terrorists. Could have killed all 4 instantly." Barr went silent. Here's what happens, Morrison continued. Mr. Thornton, Mr. Mitchell, Mr. Cooper, Mr. Ward, you're under arrest for assault and battery. Captain Anderson acted in clear self-defense. Video evidence is overwhelming. You're fortunate she showed restraint. She could have legally used lethal force given 4 larger males attacked her in confined space. Bullshit! Derek screamed as handcuffs clicked. She baited us! Set up to sue. She wanted this. Mr. Thornton, stop talking. Everything is recorded. You had no idea who she was when you grabbed her. You thought she was just a black woman you could intimidate for entertainment. The only thing she set up was her right to exist without assault. They were led out in handcuffs while phones recorded Kyle's stream capturing his own arrest for 70,000 followers. Zuri remained seated, finishing her club soda, answering questions with military precision. The crowd of fighters who'd laughed now regarded her with fear, awe, and shame. She'd wanted a quiet weekend. Instead, she'd been forced, again, to prove assumptions about women, about black women, could be dangerously, humiliatingly wrong. As EMTs loaded Derek into an ambulance, arm immobilized, career potentially finished, he glimpsed Zuri through the window. Calm, checking her phone. An evening suffering only minor interruption. That image would haunt him longer than his injured arm. The iron cage would never be the same. The incident became legendary. A cautionary tale about humility, respect, understanding. The person you underestimate might be most dangerous in the room. But this was just beginning. Arrests were the first domino. Coming weeks would transform not just Derek's life, but the entire culture of violence and assumed superiority that enabled this moment. Justice was rarely swift, but it was thorough. And it was coming. By Monday morning, the video had been viewed 17 million times across 6 platforms. Kyle's live stream, Marcus's recording, and the bar's security footage had merged into a viral phenomenon that transcended typical fight videos. This wasn't entertainment, it was a cultural reckoning. The headlines wrote themselves. MMA fighters attack female soldier, instantly regret it. Delta Force captain destroys 4 men who assaulted her. Drunk fighters learn hardest lesson, don't assume weakness. But the comment sections revealed something deeper. Thousands of women shared their own stories of being grabbed, intimidated, or assaulted in bars. Hundreds of military veterans expressed rage that a decorated officer had been treated this way. The conversation expanded beyond one incident into systemic discussions about male violence, racial profiling, and the assumptions that enabled both. Derek Thornton's sponsor, Knockout Energy Drinks, issued a statement within 48 hours. We do not condone violence against women or racist behavior. Effective immediately, we have terminated our partnership with Derek Thornton. 3 other sponsors followed suit. His gym, Elite Combat Austin, released a carefully worded statement distancing themselves from the incident while Travis Ward scrambled to save his business from boycotts. Brandon Mitchell's coaching contract with a local high school was mutually terminated. Kyle Cooper's social media accounts, his primary income source, hemorrhaged followers as brands pulled partnership deals. His apology video, posted Sunday night, was universally panned as insincere damage control. Zuri, meanwhile, returned to Fort Hood and tried to resume normal duties. But normal had evaporated. Her phone buzzed constantly with interview requests from CNN, NBC, Fox News, The New York Times. Her commanding officer, Colonel Harrison, advised careful consideration before engaging media. This isn't just about you anymore, Harrison said during their Monday briefing. This is about how the military is perceived, how women in combat roles are perceived, how we handle situations where our personnel are attacked by civilians. Whatever you say will be analyzed and weaponized by people with agendas. Zuri understood. She'd spent 12 years navigating the politics of being a black woman in special operations, a field so white and male that her presence was constantly questioned, constantly scrutinized, constantly requiring proof of belonging. She'd been the only woman in her Delta Force selection class. Of the 100 candidates who started, only 12 finished. She was one of them. But even after passing the same grueling tests, completing the same impossible challenges, she'd faced whispers. They lowered standards for her. Diversity quota. Political correctness run amok. Never mind that she'd outperformed 70% of the male candidates on the tactical shooting course. Never mind that her hand-to-hand combat scores were in the top 5%. Never mind 4 combat deployments with 0 friendly casualties under her command. The doubters always found reasons to dismiss her excellence. The Iron Cage incident had made those doubters very quiet. By Wednesday, the Austin Police Department completed their investigation. The findings were unambiguous. Derek Thornton, Brandon Mitchell, Kyle Cooper, and Travis Ward had committed aggravated assault. The Travis County District Attorney's Office filed formal charges. Each man faced up to 20 years in prison if convicted on all counts. Derek's attorney, Kenneth Walsh, held a press conference attempting to frame his client as the victim. "My client made a mistake in approaching this woman, yes, but her response was disproportionate and excessive. She is a trained killer who used military combat techniques against civilians in a bar. This was not self-defense. This was an attack." The press conference backfired spectacularly. Legal analysts across networks dissected Walsh's argument and found it legally bankrupt. 4 men surrounded her, one CNN legal expert explained. They initiated physical contact. They escalated to violence. Texas law is crystal clear. She had every right to defend herself with whatever force necessary to stop the threat. The fact that she's highly trained doesn't negate her right to self-defense. It actually shows remarkable restraint that she didn't cause permanent injury or death. Social media eviscerated Walsh's framing. "Trained killer?" One viral tweet read. "She's a decorated military officer who defended our country. He's a drunk bully who attacked a woman in a bar. Stop trying to flip the script." The Texas Rangers opened a parallel investigation into whether the incident constituted a hate crime given Derek's recorded racial comments. Federal prosecutors explored civil rights violations. The U.S. Army's Criminal Investigation Division launched their own inquiry to determine if Zuri's actions aligned with military conduct standards, a formality that would ultimately exonerate her completely. Derek Thornton's life was collapsing in real time. His fight scheduled for next month was canceled. His training partners distanced themselves publicly. His girlfriend of 3 years, a local influencer who'd built her brand around being Derek's girl, posted a breakup announcement that trended for 12 hours. His apartment complex received so many complaints and threats that management asked him to break his lease early. Brandon Mitchell moved back to his parents' house in Dallas after his Austin landlord declined to renew his lease. Kyle Cooper's apology tour, 3 podcasts, 2 local news interviews, only deepened public contempt. Travis Ward's gym lost 30% of its membership within 2 weeks as parents pulled kids from youth programs and women canceled classes. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for late November. The courtroom in downtown Austin was packed with media, supporters of both sides, and curious observers. Derek arrived in a suit that didn't quite fit, his right arm still in a brace. His eyes were hollow, a man who'd discovered that consequences were real and permanent. Zuri arrived in her dress uniform, ribbons and medals on full display, flanked by Colonel Harrison and the Army's legal counsel. She walked with the bearing of someone who'd testified in classified military tribunals and wasn't intimidated by civilian proceedings. The judge, Margaret Harrison, no relation to Zuri's commanding officer, was a black woman in her 60s with a reputation for no-nonsense jurisprudence. She reviewed the case files with surgical precision, watching all video evidence multiple times, reading witness statements, examining medical reports on Derek's hyperextended elbow and Travis's concussion. Kenneth Walsh attempted to argue that the videos showed Zuri as the aggressor given how quickly she disabled 4 men. "Your Honor, my client barely had time to react before this woman, this trained military combatant, attacked him with techniques designed to kill enemy combatants on battlefields." Judge Harrison removed her reading glasses slowly. "Counselor, I've watched these videos approximately 20 times in the past 72 hours. Your client grabbed Captain Anderson's arm without consent. Your client shoved her with both hands. Your client, along with 3 other men, surrounded her in what any reasonable person would perceive as a threatening posture. Your client then threw a punch at her head. These are facts, not interpretations. She leaned forward. What happened next, Captain Anderson defending herself with remarkable skill and restraint, does not make her the aggressor. It makes her competent. The law does not penalize competence in self-defense. The law does not require victims to fight poorly or allow themselves to be injured simply because their attackers underestimated them. The courtroom was silent except for the scratch of reporters' pens. Furthermore, Judge Harrison continued, I find it deeply troubling that your defense strategy appears to be demonizing a decorated military officer for having the skills she was trained by our government to possess. Captain Anderson did not initiate this confrontation. She attempted to de-escalate verbally multiple times. She gave explicit warnings. Only when physically attacked did she defend herself. That is textbook self-defense. Walsh tried to interject. Your Honor, the force used was appropriate to stop 4 larger attackers. Texas Penal Code is explicit on this matter. Captain Anderson had a reasonable belief that deadly force could be used against her given the circumstances. 4 intoxicated men, 1 exit blocked, verbal threats, physical assault. She would have been legally justified in using her service weapon if she'd been carrying it. Instead, she used empty-hand techniques that disabled the threats without causing death or permanent injury. That shows extraordinary professional judgment. Judge Harrison set down the files. All defendants are bound over for trial. Bail is set at $50,000 each. Trial date set for January 15th. Defendants are ordered to have no contact with Captain Anderson or any witnesses. Court is adjourned. The gavel struck. Derek's face crumbled. His mother, sitting in the second row, began crying. His father stared straight ahead, jaw clenched, a man watching his son's life implode and unable to stop it. Outside the courthouse, Zuri faced a wall of cameras and microphones. She'd decided, with Colonel Harrison's blessing, to make a brief statement. I want to be clear about something, Zuri said, her voice steady and measured. What happened at the iron cage was not unique. Women are grabbed, intimidated, and assaulted in bars and public spaces every single day. Most don't have military training to defend themselves. Most are told to laugh it off, to not make a scene, to accept that this is just how men behave when they drink. She paused, making eye contact with the cameras. I'm fortunate that I had the training and ability to protect myself. But millions of women don't have that luxury. This case isn't about me being special. It's about holding men accountable for believing they have the right to put their hands on women without consent, to intimidate women who don't respond to their advances, to use physical size and aggression to enforce their will. A reporter shouted a question. Captain Anderson, do you think Derek Thornton's career should be over because of one drunken mistake? Zuri's expression didn't change. Derek Thornton made choices. He chose to grab me. He chose to shove me. He chose to throw a punch. He chose to make racist comments while doing it. These weren't mistakes. They were decisions that revealed his character. The consequences of those decisions are appropriate and necessary. If this moment of accountability moved you, subscribe and hit that like button. Then comment below. Should there be mercy for those who show no remorse? Because the final verdict is about to reveal the true cost of violence and entitlement. The trial would be a reckoning not just for 4 men, but for a culture that had enabled their behavior for too long. The trial began on a bitterly cold January morning. The Travis County Courthouse was surrounded by protesters, some supporting Zuri, others claiming Derek and his crew were victims of reverse discrimination and excessive force. Media trucks lined the streets. Court TV carried the proceedings live. The prosecution's case was methodical and devastating. They played Kyle's live stream in its entirety, 23 minutes of Derek's crew drinking, making crude comments about women, then targeting Zuri. The audio was crystal clear. Derek's "You people" comment. Brandon's "your kind" rhetoric, the physical threats, the assault. Medical experts testified about Derek's hyperextended elbow. The technique used was precisely calibrated, Dr. Richard Chen explained. A few more pounds of pressure and the joint would have been destroyed permanently. Captain Anderson knew exactly how much force to apply to disable without causing career-ending injury. That level of control is remarkable. Character witnesses for Zuri included Colonel Harrison, who described her 12 years of exemplary service, and 3 fellow Delta Force operators who testified about her legendary restraint and judgment under pressure. One operator, a white male named Captain James Wilson, told the jury, "I've served with Captain Anderson in combat zones where we faced armed enemy combatants. She has never, not once, used excessive force. She calculates every action. If she'd wanted to permanently injure those men, they'd be permanently injured. She chose mercy." The defense's strategy collapsed quickly. Kenneth Walsh attempted to paint Zuri as a predator who'd provoked the confrontation. But cross-examination destroyed this narrative. The prosecutor showed frame-by-frame video analysis proving Zuri never made aggressive moves until Derek threw his punch. "Did Captain Anderson touch your client first?" the prosecutor asked Walsh's star witness, a bar patron who'd claimed Zuri was looking for trouble. "Well, no, but did Captain Anderson use racial slurs against your client?" "No, but did Captain Anderson throw the first punch?" "Technically, no, but the way she sat there like she owned the place." "So, your testimony is that a woman sitting quietly at a bar deserved to be assaulted because she sat there like she owned the place. Do I have that right?" The witness stammered. The jury's faces showed disgust. Derek took the stand against his attorney's advice. It was a disaster. Under cross-examination, he couldn't explain why he'd touched Zuri without permission, why he'd shoved her, why he'd made racial comments. "Mr. Thornton, you stated earlier that you don't consider yourself racist, yet we have you on video saying 'you people' and 'your kind' to Captain Anderson. Can you explain what you meant by those phrases?" Derek shifted uncomfortably. "I just meant people who don't belong in fighter bars. That's all." "And what determines who belongs and who doesn't?" "Well, fighters, people who train, people who respect the culture. Captain Anderson trains more than you do. She's a combat instructor for the most elite military units in the world. So what specifically made you decide she didn't belong?" Silence. Derek's face flushed red. "Was it because she's a woman?" "No, Was it because she's black?" "No, I'm not racist." "Then what was it, Mr. Thornton? What made you grab a stranger's arm, shove her, surround her with 3 other men, and attack her?" Derek couldn't answer. The prosecutor let the silence stretch for 15 excruciating seconds before sitting down. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. When they returned, the verdict was unanimous on all counts, guilty of aggravated assault for all 4 defendants. The courtroom erupted. Derek's mother sobbed. His father sat motionless, face ashen. Judge Harrison scheduled sentencing for the following week. When that day arrived, she addressed each defendant individually. "Mr. Thornton, you were blessed with physical gifts and athletic ability. You used those gifts to build a career and gain public platform. But you abused that platform by believing your status gave you the right to assault a woman who had the audacity to reject your advances. You made racist assumptions about her capabilities based on her appearance. You recorded yourself committing these acts and broadcast them to thousands. Your actions were not a momentary lapse. They were a pattern of entitlement and bigotry." She paused. "You are sentenced to 6 years in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, followed by 10 years probation. You are ordered to pay $50,000 in restitution to Captain Anderson, and you are permanently banned from sanctioned MMA competition." Derek's head dropped to the defense table. His career was over. His prime athletic years would be spent in prison. Brandon Mitchell received 4 years. Kyle Cooper received 3 years plus community service requirements. Travis Ward, as the oldest and the gym owner who'd enabled the behavior, received 7 years. Justice had been served. 4 men who believed their size, status, and skin color protected them from consequences had learned otherwise. Outside the courthouse, Zuri addressed the media one final time. "This verdict isn't just about what happened to me in a bar. It's a message that women have the right to exist in public spaces without being grabbed, intimidated, or assaulted. It's a message that military service members deserve respect regardless of gender or race. And it's a message that actions have consequences, even for people who thought they were untouchable." 3 years later, the Iron Cage sports bar had undergone a transformation. New ownership had renamed it the Warriors Code, with a mission statement prominently displayed: respect, honor, discipline for everyone. Sarah Chen, the former manager, now owned the establishment. She'd implemented strict policies against harassment and created a culture where everyone was welcome. A section of wall was dedicated to Zuri's story, not as celebration of violence, but as reminder that assumptions could be deadly and respect was non-negotiable. Zuri had been promoted to major and transferred to Fort Bragg, where she directed hand-to-hand combat training for all special operations forces. She'd written a manual on conflict de-escalation that was now standard curriculum. She'd testified before Congress about assault prevention in military and civilian contexts. She'd also started a nonprofit called Stand Your Ground, providing self-defense training for women and girls in underserved communities. The program had trained over 15,000 participants across 12 states. Derek Thornton was released after serving 4 years of his sentence. He emerged a changed man, humbled, reflective, aware that his old life was gone forever. He worked construction now, attended court-ordered therapy, and spoke occasionally at high schools about the consequences of entitlement and violence. He'd never fight professionally again. His right elbow never fully recovered. But perhaps that was the point. Some lessons required permanent reminders. Brandon worked at his father's accounting firm. Kyle drove for a rideshare service. Travis lost his gym and now managed a Planet Fitness. Their lives continued, but diminished, forever marked by the night they'd underestimated a woman in a gray hoodie. Zuri stood in her office at Fort Bragg, looking at the Medal of Valor on her wall. Next to it hung a framed photo from the Iron Cage, not of the fight, but of the moment after, when she'd sat calmly at the bar while chaos erupted around her. That image represented everything she'd learned in 12 years of service. True strength was controlled, true power was restrained, and true justice required both. She'd faced armed terrorists in Syria, navigated political minefields in Washington, and survived the toxic masculinity of special operations culture. A drunk MMA fighter in a Texas bar had been just another mission, one she'd completed with the same precision and discipline she brought to everything. The difference was that this mission had been broadcast to millions, forcing a cultural conversation about violence, accountability, and the deadly assumptions people made about women who didn't fit their stereotypes. What's your view about this story? If you were in Zuri's position, would you have shown the same restraint? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If this story moved you, inspired you, or reminded you that actions have consequences, hit that subscribe button for more true stories of justice and accountability. Smash the like button if you believe in holding bullies accountable. Share this story with someone who needs to see that underestimating people has a price. Where are you watching from? Tell us in the comments. Remember, strength isn't about size or status. It's about character, discipline, and knowing when to fight and when to show mercy. Justice is blind, but she sees everything.